Okay, Common Core Algebra 2. So we're going to look at now part 2 of our Properties of Exponents. This is Chapter 5, Section 1. Today we're going to talk about quotient, which remember means division. So the first two are going to be quotient, quotient of powers and power of quotients, which are very similar to the product ones. They just have to do with division instead of multiplication. And then the last one, the one that tends to give us a little bit of challenge, is what we do when we have a negative power. Okay, negative power, we're going to need to start to think about reciprocals. Okay, so the first thing we have here, when like bases are divided. So if you remember the last time when it was product of powers, it was when like bases are multiplied, we added the exponents. In this case, when like bases are divided, we are going to subtract the powers or the exponents. So in our first example here, remember this is an x to the first. So we're going to say x to the 5 minus 1 gives us 4. Okay, and that's your simple example. A little more complicated. Just like we did with our product, we need to do each group individually. So a to the third is like thinking of that as a over a to the second. So 3 minus 2 gives us a to the first. Okay, we can do our b's. B to the fourth over b to the seventh, which is going to give us 4 minus 7 is b to a negative 3. And then remember this is a z to the first, so z to the third over z to the first gives us z to the second. And since we don't have anything left in our denominator, it's kind of like a 1 is there. And towards at the end of the video, we're going to talk about what we do with that negative exponent, because we would have to do one more step to simplify this so we don't have any negative exponents. Okay, same idea as our product to a power. When we have a quotient raised to a power, it's like distribution. Again, we're going to raise the numerator and the denominator to the power. So really all factors raised to that power. Our example here then, we're going to have x to the fourth to the fifth is going to give us x to the 20th over y to the third to the fifth. We're distributing that 5 onto both the numerator and denominator. We get y to the 15th. Okay, and we can't do our subtraction technique or tip that we had in the last slide because these are not like bases. So this would be as simplified as we could get. And our last one then, to apply a negative exponent, what we're going to need to do is write it as a reciprocal with a positive power. So you're going to want to think of coefficients as well. We have x to the negative 1 here. It's like we have a coefficient of 1. So when I rewrite it, I'm going to need to rewrite it as a reciprocal. So I'm going to have a fraction because it's a reciprocal, and that 1 is actually going to become the numerator. X to the negative 1 moves to the denominator, but now that negative becomes positive. So when we rewrite it, it's a reciprocal. These two are reciprocals. 1 over x to the first. Okay, you can see a little bit here again. Y to the negative third. This is the only piece that has a negative exponent. So that is the only piece that moves to the denominator. We put the y to the third down there, and since the 5 does not have a negative exponent, we're going to rewrite that in the numerator. 5 over y to the third. And you'll notice that only, like I just said, and have this as an extra star here, only the base with the negative power changes position. And I wrote change position there because you'll notice both of these move to the denominator. But if I said something like 3 over, let's say, x to the negative 2 y to the fourth, we need to actually change position, the reciprocal. This has a negative exponent, so it's going to need to move up. We're going to have 3 x now to the positive 2 in the numerator all over that y didn't move because it did not have a negative exponent. So 3x squared over y to the fourth. Okay, and so those are your last 3 rules, 3 properties for exponents. We've gone over 7 now, several for product last time and 2 for quotients this time, plus your 0, which means everything becomes 1, and your negative, which involves the reciprocal. All right, see you next time, guys.